just throw the peace on, tell them good vibes only, yeah. They were hating, but we didn't even notice, cause
Hello. How you guys doing? I know that Facebook's going to be doing its thing as it normally does to me. There we go. There's my error. How you guys doing? Happy Monday. Happy Monday. Monday. Do. How you guys doing? I'm going to give it a few minutes. I hope you guys had a wonderful weekend. I know I did. I was canning all weekend, and I've got plenty more. I'm going to be doing some peach jam and some apple stuff. So I hope you guys had a fantastic morning as well as the weekend. It is 10:10 in the morning and Eastern Standard Time, and we're about to get started. We're going to be talking about the second dimension. And last week I had talked about the first dimension, and which was the first dimension was talking about unity, how that is the important thing in the whole concept of who the creator is, where they came from, and how we have discovered ourselves in the whole aspect as, you know, the concept of we are all one. So we're about to get started in a few minutes. How you doing, Dana? Good morning. 10:10. Yeah, I got your notification. Awesome. How you doing, Kimberly? Hello, wonderful people on this morning. We're about to get started in a second. To expand your knowledge, so fasten your seatbelt, because we're about to take that wonderful trip down the rabbit hole of knowledge and to expand your mind. So let's get started, and then we'll go and answer questions as we go along. So to truly understand who we are and where we are going as beings, we have to know the self through unity, as discussed in the last Facebook Live that I did last week when I had talked about dimensions. And the first one, which is the consciousness, unity, where the whole aspect of I am and what it truly means. I talked about how the first dimension is the one dimension that ties all the dimensions all together. So it's kind of like the glue. So if you had missed it, let me know, and I will definitely shoot that live to you if you had missed it and you're kind of like, what is she talking about? No worries at all. Just let me know and I'll shoot that live to you. So now we're going to be looking into the second dimension. This is more than just a biological connection where the conscious awareness is on a biological level, whereas the dimension where we can connect to plants, the animal kingdom, and to be able to connect on a physical and more conscious level. So you see, the conscious aspect of a biological level, it directs the automatic nervous system to regulate and maintain your life support functions. Like, you don't even have to think about it, and your heart winds up beating and you wind up functioning. So basically it's more than just, the automatic nervous system that's regulating and supporting the life functions of your physical body. It also allows us to be able to be aware consciously and subconsciously of our five senses, and being totally, and it's the fact of being totally unconscious of this. And it winds up putting us in a place where we're, basically energetic chemical beings of matter that makes up the density of our physical body. Try to say that 10 times fast, trust me. So you can basically, at this level, you can become aware of how our body is just one big communication network, and between all the elements of your cells. Basically, your body communicates to every one of your cells that be able to react in everything simultaneously, and it's all without you consciously being aware of it. So that's why it's more of a unconscious situation. I mean, this may or may not surprise you, but then again, it may not. Besides the connection to the animal kingdom, that there are many different beings that do exist at this level of the second dimension, which are natural, more elemental spirits of energetic conscious beings that are all around us. They don't have to have a physical structure, and at least they are definitely caught on camera by people just randomly snapping pictures. But this all goes to show that just because you are not physically aware doesn't mean that things don't exist in our reality. You see, when we begin to learn about the universe in all its dimensions, many would probably think that duality would be one of those most horrible things that could possibly ever happen to us. that we could definitely maybe live without it. We may think this because we feel trapped in this positive and negative existence. Yet when we wind up realizing about the creation of duality, we find out that without it, it couldn't exist. That without duality, we couldn't create. So it has to exist. Unity is basically the first reality that definitely exists, and the only statement where you could go through the truth. When you think about unity, you see everything in the universe, but you cannot experience everything. So it's like having a librarian, and follow me with this analogy. It's like having a librarian that can read every book in the library, but have not lived any one of those experiences that are written in those books. So duality is when basically the unity asks that what could I come to become? What that question was a projection of the self actually coming out. When you can see yourself under a different perspective, the other side of seeing yourself in a different way in which you can move through reality. That's why the understanding goes like this. In one life, you could be a person of love and light and everything nice. And then maybe on the next life that you may choose to explore the darkness and wind up becoming the villain. So picture yourself at the center. Okay, you got the sphere, you're at the center. But then you decide you split into two, and from that you wind up creating two forces. One is called purpose, and the other is called a mission. Okay? So what exactly is the purpose and the mission presented when it comes to duality? Well, the purpose right here is the positive energy of the universe, where the mission is the negative energy of the universe. I'm sure that you have a lot of questions wondering how these two can be noted as such, but don't worry, you'll understand. Allow me to explain. So in the universe, both of them are just waves, okay, and just one cell dividing into two. It's kind of like when you wind up going into biology class and you wind up looking in the microscope and you wind up seeing one cell that once it winds up becoming fertilized, you will use like the egg, that it winds up splitting. It winds up splitting in two, then to four, then so on and so forth, and multiplying itself. Well, basically it's the same thing, that it's basically a cell dividing itself. And they both wind up rotating with each other, okay? So they kind of wind up doing this dance. The one is going around the other, creating different waves and creating different perspectives. So if you think about it, it's kind of like a dance within itself, that you see in every aspect of itself in a different way altogether. So you got the positive, you got the negative, and it constantly does this dance with each other, and it winds up creating this vibration, this wave. So if everything is definitely created in the universe, is created within this dance with itself, the duality of positive and negative. So with us humans, in our own planet and many other planets, it's known as the positive and negative forces. A better way to understand this is basically imagining that there is a light and that you put yourself at the center of the room. The closest that you get to that light, the shadow that is behind you gets even bigger. So the darkness will go all around you. Enlightened darkness is simply different projections. It's the only way that you can see both is to be at the center, to be able to see the light and the darkness. So where you either go through the light or you go through the darkness, one of these will wind up embracing you, and then you will wind up becoming lost in one of those perspectives. You have two forces that create a reality, but it's only one of them that you'll wind up being lost in which the universe will wind up hitting you from behind. So if you're in light, you're going to wind up getting hit behind by the darkness. Or if you're in dark, you're going to be hit behind by the light. So this is one way, and one of these forces is referred to as being the negative. Rather, it's considered a bad energy or the universe, or only just your own shadows trying to remind you that you're basically away from your intended path. Have you ever been in a situation in your life where you wind up you're going through life and everything, and when you wind up becoming off your path, everything winds up happening to you, that bad things wind up happening to you to bring you back to your intended path of what you're supposed to do. Some people basically listen to it. Some people don't. And then they wonder why things happen is because that dark energy is not like the boogeyman under your bed when we were kids. It's basically that negative force that's trying to push you back into your position, your path that you're intended to do. The more you stray away from it, the more that darkness is going to keep hitting you from behind, trying to steer you back to your path and what you're supposed to be. So, I mean, think about it. Everything winds up going bad for you. Nothing is working out at all. And all it is the universe that is telling you that this way, that your path that you're on is not for you. It's not because there is some bad force or the universe has it out for you. It's from yourself. It's that dark energy, and we call that Domition. It's pulling you back, and that way you can find your way back to the center. The only reality is unity. So duality is a dimension of creation. It's the force that allows you to create a lot of different realities so the self can see different perspectives of itself. So negative and positive winds up pulling out from the core, from that unity. And it can have that movement, that dance. It's basically from the first dimension, it's the self bringing itself out. So now on the second dimension, it's that self splitting in two into that negative and positive and doing this dance with itself, in its life. So if you envision this with me, if you will, the dance I was talking about that creates the spiral moves, all this energy from dark to light to dark, and this winds up creating a energy around the whole universe that is called degradation and frequency. So all reality is created is basically created with positive and negative, doing this dance and causing this vibration and this frequency of degradation and frequency. So another way to also think about it is that the second dimensional of consciousness is also distinguished between me and I in the consciousness. This distinction is based on the idea that the former me corresponds to the self as an object in which it cares, and in which case, in my view, that distinction is basically a map between the phenomenal self and reflecting the self-related content of the consciousness and the metaphysical self. So you guys are probably like, what is she saying? Oh my goodness, I'm so lost. So allow me to continue. So this basically does at times represents a problem of subjectivity of all consciousness experiences. So feeling as if you were not a part of the experiences nor the lessons we are learning about yourself. So instead we look at our experiences as ourself being no more than a subject. Basically, in reality, what is important to understand is that we created positive and negativity, that you should not go to one of them. Because if you wind up choosing one of either negative or positive, you're just pushing yourself into destroying itself. There is no good and there is no bad when it comes to the universe. There is only neutrality, where neutrality is both, because it's balanced. Everything is balanced. I mean, look at this, this Metatron. Everything, it represents balance. It represents balance in life. So everything in balance has to have that balance. That's the whole purpose of duality. So, and duality is basically the law in which everything evolving is all the time it's stable, and nothing is always the same. The only thing that is constant in the universe at the same time is everything is also non-constant, that everything is basically moving and transforming itself. So as humans, we wind up believing that that we are stable, that we are good, that we have a good job, that we have a good partner, we have a good life, everything's peaches and cream, and everything's so nice, right? Yet it may surprise you that actually being stable is actually illness. Surprising, isn't it? So why is being stable illness? Well, think about it. If you get stabilized in life and then suddenly something boosts you from the outside and comfort of your life, where you can wind up finding different perspectives of itself, it's called a crisis. Believe it or not, a crisis is actually good for the universe because it will actually boost you towards evolution. So if we wind up evolving as a species and we wind up ascending and everything, would we ascend if everything was just, just normal, stable, nothing much going on? No, we wouldn't. We'd become complacent. We would be comfortable in where we're at. We wouldn't want to change. We wouldn't want to ascend. So, of course, there has to be chaos. There has to be a crisis that has to usher in that ascension and that awakening. So we need that dark force and the light forces all the time, so that way we can wind up evolving. We cannot just choose one of them. We have to basically, to see the light, we have to embrace the dark, right? And vice versa. So the only way that we could basically live is to live in balance. It's all about the same forces and having the same amount of energy of both. The first thing that was created in reality was to project in a purpose. So the self is just one spot in order to go and move forward, to find itself and to project its goal. So in the projection of what takes place of itself within, and to take it outside of itself, we simply call it purpose. But purpose doesn't actually exist. It's only a hologram. It's a projection. But we need it to create. So we created a purpose in which we considered positive. And the opposite of that is mission, which is positioned in the back of you. So you got purpose right here, and we got mission, who is in the back of you. That's the shadow. So in opposition of that is mission, which is positioned in the back of you. It's one that pushes all of us all the time towards our purpose. It's that universe that keeps pushing us back, and that dark energy that keeps pushing us back, propelling us forward into our purpose, which is the path, our intended path. So it's actually the mission is what pushes us from behind. It's the darkness, it's the negative, it's the mission. Think about this. When you jump start your car, you have to have the jumper cables, and you have to connect the negative and the positive, right? You can't just hook it to the positive and expect to jump your car, right? Or to hook it just in the negative to jump your car. They both have to be connected, so they both have to work. So the negative and the positive, they have to work together, and they do when it comes to the universe, to understanding the universe. So what you probably didn't realize is that what is built within the second dimension is time and space, where time is a negative energy that holds us all in the darkness of the reality that projects every possibility of creation, of basically experiences that holds us all the time in one spot. Time is what keeps us trapped. The spot is basically projected in many ways and seeing it from different timelines. Then those timelines and conditions that spot to push itself and split and create space. That's why we can't just go on one timeline or one linear line. It splits, it splinters. So you see, after time starts to project outside space, it projects all those possibilities in time and winds up dividing itself in many different parts and as much as it possibly can. So it's where beings can basically experience every time and every space, and they understand this, and that's why a lot of sentient beings and higher dimensional beings are able to fold time and space, because for them time and space is not linear. They can fold, and it splinters. They understand this, so they don't have to actually go to a place. They could be one spot and go and have the place come to them, bending time and space. So basically you would believe if we were in the third dimension, that we have basically come from the second dimension, and then from there we came from the first dimension. Seems logical, right? Well, actually it's not. The second dimension, that is where there is no time and space, because it is just a perspective. It's just a projection of reality. So the second dimension, it's not behind us, it's actually surrounding us like an envelope. So it's basically the force that creates every possibility that we are living in every time and space. You see, we do not start to understand. The more we evolve, we wind up starting to understand this concept. The more that we evolve, the more that we start to evolve in many different dimensions. From third on up, we not necessarily third, but fourth on up, we start to really understand time and space. But spirituality and the universe outside of us, all the darkness is only just a force that winds up pushing us toward our own light, and our light pushes us toward our own darkness. So one is negative and the other is positive, and we realize that there is no projection outside, that we could basically integrate more than we could inside. So in one hand you have negative, and on the other you have positive. There is only one place that you can hold neutrality, and that is the one space is right here, your heart. That is where the balance is your heart. That's why unconditional love is so important, and finding that neutrality and finding that balance is so important. So to understand the first dimension and the second dimension will have you better understand who you are as a third dimensional species. So this is basically the wisdom and the journey of the second dimension. You know, and I understand that it's a lot. You guys are going, oh my goodness, you know. Dana says, haha, buckle up, Buttercup, and hang on to your undies. I love it, love it. This sounds like crappy, hence the importance of balance. Yes, balance is extremely important. How you doing, Melissa? Hey, beautiful. My lovely sister there. Definitely Kim and Melissa, you guys are all awesome and wonderful. But like I said, you know, yes, so it gives you a different perspective of the negative and the positive, and it gives you a different aspect of how important duality is. And to find that balance, everything is in balance. You know, this represents balance, the Merkaba. And that's where the importance is to basically have balance and to find that neutrality. And that negative and positive is not just the universe having something against you and causing havoc in your life. It's to push you toward the goal that you're supposed to be on. And to find your neutrality, to have balance, is right here, is your heart. That's where the neutrality is. And to basically pick the light or the dark or the negative or the positive is basically you're self-destructing yourself. You're self-destroying yourself. You don't pick either one. You find neutrality. You find balance. So I'm really awesomely happy to see all these beautiful souls come in here. Dana, Kimberly, Melissa, you guys are awesome, and I thank you all for coming on board. And I hope you guys learned a lot in the second dimension, and we will be talking about the third dimension, which is the dimension that most of us are at, the third dimensional of human consciousness. So we're going to be talking about that next. So like I said, I hope you guys learned a lot. It gives you a different perspective and a different spin on things, and it gives you something definitely to chew on for a while. So thank you so much for coming and seeing me. And if you guys haven't seen the live I did last week about talking about dimensions and breaking everything down on the first dimension, let me know. I will definitely shoot that live to you. So you guys have a wonderful Monday. Thank you for joining me. And I love you guys so much. Thank you so much, Kim. Lots of value. Thank you. And I honor every one of you. Namaste. And you guys have a wonderful day. And I will see you next time when we talk about the third dimension.